So I got the chance to ride a Ninja 650 at the Kawasaki promo tour. Today I'll walk you through my experience, what I noticed about the bike, what I liked or maybe disliked. So currently I own a 2016 Ninja 650, so I was kind of curious what 10 years of advancements in technology would have to offer. The first thing I instantly noticed when I got onto this bike was that it felt incredibly small. Even for me at only 5'7" or 167 centimeters, the bike felt tiny. After some getting used to, this wasn't really big of a problem, but it took me by surprise. In the first couple of meters you ride this thing, you instantly notice that it really doesn't weigh that much. It's super easy to throw around, and it's really nimble. This kind of reminded me of the R3, obviously. However, unlike the R3, it wasn't too light to the point where it will start to feel uneasy. The Ninja still feels stable and planted, which is a really big plus for me. This was just an issue I had with the R3. It didn't feel confidence inspiring at all. The seating position is actually really good. It's decently committed, but absolutely not a super sport. It goes hand in hand with the styling and with what this bike is really trying to do. Unlike something like the CF Moto 450 SR, which is way more focused and way more aggressive. The sock seat was okay. It had me searching for a bit on how to sit right, and I was changing positions quite a lot during my only 40-minute ride. So I can't imagine this being way better on longer runs. The suspension on it works pretty well, and it's very predictable in the cornering, which is nice. So no complaints there, but it does get a bit stiff with bumps or uneven roads. Something you have to take into consideration if you live somewhere that has bad roads or a lot of speed bumps, and if you want to take this commuting, I don't think it's the most comfortable thing. The standard ring protection is fine, actually. It keeps the wind and dirty air of your chest, which is a great thing to have. It obviously isn't going to block the wind on your helmet like a big touring bike or something, but it does the job. So, onto the engine. Which is obviously one of the most important things. For a 500cc parallel twin, it is actually quite fun to work with. It's quite torquey in certain points of the power band, which makes it quite punchy actually, and gives it enough power everywhere in your RPM range. The 180-degree crank setup made this engine worth bringing out a bit more. It has that little top-end power, which is a really nice thing to have in this sport-ish segment. So yeah, I think it's a good choice. You can have a lot of fun with this thing for an A2 bike. Sure, it's not gonna kill you on straight lines, but it still has plenty enough power to have some fun in the twisties. The only real downside about the engine will always be the 180-degree sound. I just don't really like the sound of these things. Sure, it was paired with a aftermarket exhaust, so it had a little bit of burbles and pops, which, well, kinda was a plus for me, but still, it sounds thin, and I'm just not a fan of this sound. So once you actually get going on this bike, you'll eventually have to come to a stop. Well, luckily, the brakes on these things are great, actually. You have a lot of feel and a ton of braking power. It is really confidence inspiring, and it actually felt great. Something I didn't fully expect to say about this single front rotor brake system. But hey, it's a good thing. Having ABS optioned on it is also a big plus. Like I've said a million times before, especially on starter bikes, ABS is just a must. It is so nice to have. Which brings me to the tech of this bike. Like I said, the bike has ABS, which is nice, especially for beginners, and I didn't really get to try the app or the smartphone connectivity that the things come with. Not that I really care about those things either, because I just want to ride. But it has the keyless entry thing. So yeah, about that, as you can probably see from the footage by now, I was figuring out how that worked. And, I suppose you can get used to it. It just felt a little bit off to me for now, but I would be lying if I told you that I have never bent a key or two or something. So I guess it's an upgrade. Obviously, I'm not really certain how much of this system actually ends up costing you in the price of the bike, but I felt like a function like this would have been better off on a bigger touring or teched out higher model bike and then have the money that saves maybe invested in a better standard seat or something. But that's just my opinion. So like I said, I own a Ninja 650. So comparing it to that, the 500 is really like the little brother of the 650, and it acts accordingly. It's lighter, it's more agile, and it's also both cheaper and it feels less grown up. If you're looking for like a blippy little sports bike that will get you a lot of smiles and get you ready for the bigger bikes, the 500 it is, easily. But the 650 is definitely more of an adult bike. It's way more planted and a well-made bike. Even with a 10-year difference, I noticed that the build quality on the 650 is just way higher and everything just feels more solid. It really is something that can do everything, and it's really well made to own for a long time. So, is this bike worth it? For more than 7,500 euros for the SE model, I think it's quite a lot of money for what you're getting. Especially if you're planning on keeping this bike for a long time, you don't get a staggering amount of bike for your money. And I would go as far as to say that you're probably just getting like a Ninja 650 or something in that range, but then from the second-hand market, for example. However, the bike does hold is worth quite well. So if you're planning on owning it for just a little while to get used to riding and to get a little bit more confident and building some experience, and to then sell it again and move on to a bigger or a better bike, then sure, it's a great idea if you have the funds to do so. It really comes down to what you want from the bike. Do notice that there are still some other bikes in this category which are strong contenders in my opinion. For example, the CF Moto 450 SR. I think it was a really great bike that delivered a little bit of a different but also a noticeable performance in this category. If you're interested in this segment of bikes, I would really recommend checking out my video about the 450 SR. Make of this video my impressions and my opinion as you will, obviously. This is just my experience. If you still have questions that you'd like to ask me about my experience with this bike or maybe other bikes, feel free to comment and I will answer as well as I can. Then, for now, I will thank you for watching and catch you in the next video.